I'm going to take off from where MR left off and talk a little bit more about Indiaspora. So at Indiaspora, there are 2 points I want to make essentially about what we do. The first is we are a network and a platform. Now what does that mean? I don't want these to be vacuous terms. As a network, we are all of you. We are, as an organization, we do physical events, we do virtual events, we convene people. And through this convening, we come about by making a platform. That's the second part of it. So we are a platform to disseminate ideas, to generate ideas, to create and to amplify ideas. And a lot of this happens, as MR was alluding to, at our Indiaspora events and in the various projects that we do offline. Let me give you a couple of examples. We have done an impact report in the past in conjunction with Boston Consulting about the Indian diaspora's positive impact in the United States on society in various aspects of life and on the US-India corridor. Today, in the next 5 minutes or so, we are about to release another report about the UAE, the Indian diaspora in the UAE and their positive impact on the UAE and on the India-UAE corridor. So that's an example of thought leadership that's impactful and that translates into action. There are other categories in which we work. We do reports similar to this on philanthropy, which you'll see in this conference being released as well. We've convened academicians in the United States. We work on civic engagement with other ethnic communities. And also, we've done a lot of work on the geopolitical trade and investment side as well. In fact, here in the UAE, we've convened an I2U2 dialogue. We've done another I2U2. For those of you that don't know I2U2, it's 2 I's and 2 U's, India, Israel, US, UAE. We've talked about trade, investment, multilateral collaboration in India as well, and here, Chatham House rules, So that's the kind of work that we do. That's what I mean when I say we are a network and a platform. Second, we are a truly global entity. At this event, over the next 3 days, we will have 700 participants from 34 countries. You see most of the flags outside. Yeah? And I'd like to give a shout out here. I see Harsh Ringla sitting right here in front of me. Harsh used to be the chief of the Indian G20 presidency, the chief lieutenant to Prime Minister Modi, organizing their entire presidency for India. Of course, before that, he's had a couple of other illustrious roles as well. Foreign Secretary, Ambassador of India to US and so forth. Harsh invited Indiaspora to be the diaspora partner for India's G20 presidency. And that has resulted taking a step up into where we are today, right? So we have several core countries that we focus on. We work extensively on, apart from the United States and India, of course, the UAE, Canada, Singapore, UK, and Australia. We are building a team. We have a team currently of 20 staff members across 5 countries, looking to hire in other countries as well. So the global aspect of our work is something that I'd like to really emphasize and I'd like you to take home. So essentially, that at Indiaspora is who we are, what we do. There are some activities that we work on in public. There are others that we do behind the scenes in consultation with business leaders, government, philanthropists, etc. Right? So, global entity and a platform and a network. That's who we are at Indiaspora. And that, I think, is a good segue into what we're about to do next, which is unveil the UAE India Impact Report in conjunction with BCG. So let me invite my partner in crime up on stage. Sesh Iyer from BCG is the regional chair in North America of BCGX and a very, very close and instrumental collaborator in the impact report work that we do. Sesh, if you'd like to come up, please. So I'll just make sure, if Shrenya, you can help with the slides, please, because I don't think, okay, great. The first thing I'd like to do here, this is the cover art for the UAE India Impact Report that we are doing with BCG. And the cover is really appropriate because it talks about 2 entities holding hands, shaking hands, lifting each other up, collaborating. I don't know if Gina Raghavan is in the audience, but I'd like to give a credit for cover art. Gina, if you're in the audience, please stand up. Take a bow. No? Gina isn't here? Okay, all right. Well, thank you nonetheless for the cover art. If we can move on to the next slide. So, Sesh, I know that we've been talking a lot about the Indian diaspora in the UAE. It's 3.9 million strong, as you can see as of now. Now, this is important to note because in 1975, that's 50 years ago, of course, it was just 5,000 people. And the composition of the diaspora has changed as well. I know Sesh will want to talk about that. It's 30% of the total population in the UAE. 20% of the Indian diaspora lives in Abu Dhabi, right? So I think that's an important point to note. It's not only Dubai, Abu Dhabi and the other Emirates have some of the Indian population as well, Abu Dhabi being a major center. But Sesh, I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about the diaspora, the makeup and so forth.
Can you hear me okay? Is it on now? I'll just use the mic here. I think the biggest point here on the diaspora is the migration, I think, from what we have observed over the last 25 years, from largely a blue-collar driven population to now a white-collar and a business-driven population. And it anchors a lot in what we'll talk about in a bit, which is the whole progression towards innovation, innovation that is beyond just the oil economy, and how the UAE is gonna be a major force in that space over the next 15, 20 years.
I think, Sesh, if we were to have one headline that we want all our friends here and the media to take away with them, is that really this relationship is at the early stages of unleashing tremendous potential and real excellence across sectors.
I think that's exactly right. When we think about the UAE and what's next, as a real unlock to, I think, the real potential that exists in this part of the world, as a gateway not only into the Middle East and broader Africa, but also more broadly into the world. So there's a lot that we are seeing happen here, and there's a lot of exciting stats that we'll share with you in a bit that actually demonstrates not only where we are today, but I think where we'll get to in the next 15, 20 years.
Right. Let's talk some numbers. So, Sesh, you want to talk about the trade that has grown manifold?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that just trade, and a lot of our success is based on joint trade, and trade has actually grown close to 30x, as we can see, since 1998. A really big number in the last, I would say, 25, 30 years. A big thing here is India is UAE's second largest trading partner, and the UAE is India's third largest trading partner. So we are seeing a lot of exchange that happens across the corridor between India and the UAE.
Yeah, I'll add one point to what Sesh just made. If you look at the chart at the very bottom, in 1998, the bilateral trade between the two countries was about $3 billion US. Today, 2024, fast forward, it's almost about $84 billion. And I think it's worth mentioning here that the CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, that was signed between the UAE and India in 2022, aspires to have bilateral trade in 5 years, so that's 2027, to 100 billion. And I know that the UAE India Business Council has released a report on making a substantial portion of that trade non-oil trade, right? So it's not just energy products. One quick point I'll add here is tomorrow, many of you will see Dr. Thani Al-Zayudi, who is the Minister for Trade here in the UAE. He was instrumental in signing the CEPA within 88 days with India, record time, 88 days with India. That talks about the trust between the two countries and the relationship. We had him for a fireside chat at the Burj Al Arab in Dubai in 2021, where he was talking extensively about the tremendous desire that the UAE has to strengthen trade relations with India. We can move to the next slide. Sesh?
So the FDI, again, across India and the US is today, as you can see, it's in the $35–36 billion range. A lot of that inflow is by and large equitable across both countries, with 16 billion coming in from India to the UAE, and then 19 million of FDI from the UAE into India. Again, we see this as a clear signal about the size and the importance of the relationship across the two countries.
And Sesh, I know when we were talking earlier today, you wanted to make the point about the numbers, the remittances numbers, and then what that means for talent from the UAE helping folks back in India.
I think thanks Sanjeev. We have taken a look at remittances as a clear signal again of the connectivity that exists on the economic front across the two countries. I'd like to share a few points largely around just innovation, right? So I think first is the UAE is one of the first countries that's implemented the local currency settlement system.
Right.
Should we just wait?
Oh, is the Sheikh here? Yeah. Okay. So I think Sheikh Nayan, His Excellency, is here. So we're just going to pause and allow him to enter the room. Okay. So I think we'll step down for a second, let him come, and then we'll carry on this later.
And now, taking my cue from that brotherhood and that bond that the ambassador so eloquently spoke of, I'd like to invite Sanjeev and Sesh on stage to present the details of the India-UAE Impact Report. Can we have you on stage, please?
So, hello, is my mic on? Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, great, thank you. So Sesh, I think you wanted to go to the slide that we were on just before, the previous slide, if you can. Yeah, okay, great.
So we talked about, we already had our Consul General talk quite a bit about the data. I think two other things that I'd like to add. We already talked about remittances. But when you think about payments, I think the one other thing that stands out in the UAE is decentralized finance. And the UAE is one of the few countries in the world that actually has regulation around blockchain and crypto, with that market expected to be a $2 billion market by 2030. We also heard a lot about AI and technology and the wave that's coming in the future. I think the UAE is going to be a $50 billion market by 2030 in this space. And Abu Dhabi itself has over 400 startups now focused on AI and technology, many of them started by Indians.
Absolutely. And talking about tourism in the UAE, so 2.2 million Indian tourists have visited the UAE just in 2023 alone. And that is a lot of spin-off economic benefits. 13% of total tourists and an estimated $6 billion and more dollars direct and indirect spend, that's US dollars. Think about the connectivity between the two countries, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Dubai, with various cities in India. More than 540 direct flights. So the relationship between the two countries goes well beyond the trade numbers. It goes into the diaspora, it goes into trust, and it goes into the relationship as we were talking about. Sesh?
And when we think about really the next generation and the next generation anchored in talent, today there are over 400,000 students in the UAE that are actually trained in institutions that are run largely by folks who have come from India. So a lot around just shaping the next generation, for the next generation to be, I think, capturing a lot of the opportunities that we see clearly in the UAE over the next 20 years.
And speaking of the medical profession also, there are 26,000 Indian doctors here in the UAE and 55,000 nurses of Indian origin. So that's another way that the Indian diaspora provides a service to the UAE. And I think, Sesh, in closing, it's fair to say that building on the cultural synergies and the trusted relationships that we have already between the two countries, it is time now to really focus on innovation exchanges and talent exchanges. And the last thing I think we should mention is that the UAE and the UAE-India corridor is ideally positioned to serve as a springboard to be a force for good, not just for the UAE itself and the work that the Indian diaspora does here, but for the GCC, for MENA, Middle East and North Africa, and indeed for the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.